very strange series of objects made from the chronophotographs of Marais, which were to take the picture of the bird and to make out of it a bronze sculpture. And it's quite marvelous in terms of rhythm, because you have a bird at one aspect embedding itself into another bird and another aspect and another one and another one and another one and another one and another one. And you never have the complete bird. You only have a succession of embeddings, which makes this beautiful, solid, fixed rhythm. So it's both beautiful and extremely strange as an object.
Yeah, I give it as an example because it is not yet seen, so it does not move.
No?
So it is a form. It is a form. No, this is not Malay. This is no. This is the other human body motion.
Muybridge?
Muybridge. Yeah. This is Muybridge. Or perhaps I'm wrong, but this is they're both right. But this is a man walking. Do you have the bird?
No, I don't have the bird.
Okay. Yeah, because Muybridge was the other one. Muybridge is a sequence of movement, while in the same photograph you will have Marais. Yes?
There's a verb in Greek, parapatane.
Pardon?
Parapatane, which is often translated to walk. But my understanding is that in the New Testament, it's the Christian authors were often appropriating that term or that verb to basically mean form of life, a way of not just to walk, but the way of walking oneself into.
The Latin fathers will use, the Greek will use peripateia, and the Latin father will say conversatio, which then becomes conversation.
Yeah.
So at that moment is way of living. But it's interesting that you mentioned this, because we are now approaching to this problem. So it is in this sense that you must understand form of life. It is a form, it's more a rhythmos than a scheme. So it's the rhythmos of life, not a scheme of life. And when in Greek monasticism we will have the attempt to define the way of living of the monks, they will say that life in the monastery is idiorhythmic or allorhythmic or homorhythmic, means they will follow the same form of life, homoform. They will or idioform, but it's referred to, on the contrary, to some peculiar monastery in which each monk had his own form of life. But this is really not common. The more common was that the monks followed the same rhythmos. But it doesn't mean for them a rhythm. For them it meant form of life. So rhythm is a modern translation. And so by means of this rhythmic way of life in the monasteries, we can go now on to the second part of our seminar, which will be devoted precisely to the analysis of the monastic life. As a matter of fact, one of the first time in which I began to reflect on this concept, form of life, this was while reading Franciscan literature, Franciscan text. The Franciscans will use the term forma vitae, form of life, forma vivendi, form of living, etc., etc., or even sometimes forma. Why I found this immediately very interesting? Because you know that monastic life implied a rule, regula. So to live in a monastery was to live under or according to a rule. Secundum regola o sub regula. But what fascinated me in the Franciscan is that when we read more attentively, for instance, the first so-called Franciscan rule, we have at least two Franciscan rules. The first is called Regola non bullata. It's the one who was not approved by the Pope. So, obviously, the most authentic. Obviously.
What was the term?
Eh?
What was the term?
Regula non bullata. Rule not approved by the Pope. Regula non bullata, like the bulla of the Pope. But, so, why, when we read this, the beginning, the very beginning of this rule, regula, we do not find the term regula. We just find ec est vita Evangelii Jesus Christi, quam frater Franciscus asked the Pope, this is the life of the Gospel of Jesus Christ that Brother Franciscus asked the Pope to confirm and to concede, or to accept. Mm-hmm. So, evidently, as it says, which Brother Franciscus asked the Pope to confirm, so it's referring to a rule, to a text, otherwise. But it doesn't call this text regula rule. It will say, ec est vita. This is the life. And then when we go to the second rule, the bullata, in which he has to make some concession to the church, he introduces the term regula. But in this form, regula et vita, minorum fratrum ec est. The rule and life of the minor brother is this, etc., etc. Yeah? And this dictology, regula et vita, is what interests me. The relationship between rule and life. It's not my interpretation. This underlining which is not rule of the life, because we have a lot of course, of commentaries made by the first Franciscans to the rule. For instance, one of the most interesting is the commentary made by Johannes Olivi. Here he comments this phrase regula et vita. He said, why Francis says regula et vita? Because he calls it, vocam seam non solum regula, ma he calls it not only rule but also life, in order to show the real meaning of a rule, that is, to be a forma vivendi, to be a form of life, and a vivifying rule. Can you say vivifying?
Yes.
Regula vivifica. Regula vivifica. A vivifying rule. So you see, he underlines, he says regula et vita, because it's not a rule which will regulate, it's not a law which will regulate the life. It is just the form of life. So rules means form of the life, and not something that regulates, orders, commands, etc. Is it clear? So the peculiar meaning that the Franciscans gave to the rule. It is a meaning that tends to identify rule with life. There is this and, regula et vita, but the idea it is that there is